Hello there, Star Wars fans and Rule the Galaxy fans. This is Jessica, your recurring monthly host now, and so hopefully you're getting used to me opening up this podcast. Today we've got a full crew. We've got Brent and Alfie and DDoc, and we've also joined by our special guest today, Okiro, who, if you're on Twitter, you'll know him at the first Okiro, and it's just, a real pleasure to have you here, have you all here. We're going to have a lot to talk about tonight, but Okiro, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks. It's been a while since I've gotten to talk to on this podcast. I don't remember how long it's been, but it feels like it was yesterday, but it's probably been like 3 months.
Yeah, and this is the first time that we've had a chance to talk. We've been mutuals on Twitter for a while, and
we go back and forth on Twitter. I'm like, I get to hear her voice. What is this?
Isn't that fun? It's always fun to be able to put voices and faces to just text that you read on a screen.
Then there's me. It's like you will only get voice.
You've got a command voice. It's like I can see your face anyway.
Well, my Twitter profile picture at least has partially.
All right, so face. That's right. That's true. So I'm not completely blind in this process here. So, gentlemen, we have a lot to talk about. It just feels like we're in a period where we're getting tons and tons of news each and every week. And of course, partially that's because we've got new content each and every week. It's amazing to think that after nearly 3 years of waiting, that we've got one more week of Kenobi. And it came and went so fast. But we got another really exciting episode this week, and I guess, where else to start but to open it up for reaction? So who wants to start?
Got really quiet in here.
I want to hear Okiro first, because I just finished the episode and I'm just like, I want to hear what these guys think, because it was hard for me to wrap my brain around that episode a little bit. I'm just like kind of sitting there like, where is this? Oh, and spoilers, by the way, don't listen to this episode if you haven't watched the episode yet, obviously. But yeah, I have no clue where this is going to go for the final episode. So I want to hear your guys' takes first, and I want to formulate my opinion as you're giving them.
So when did he poop?
All right. Well, Okiro, you've been requested. So any thoughts?
God damn it. You put me on the spot with that beautiful stash. I can't say no to you. Okay, I got 2 thoughts, a controversial opinion and a very favorite one. It was beautiful seeing Hayden again. That made my little boy heart it swells, and it starts with him like, yo, this is beautiful. Like, that's all I wanted. So as a kid, just see Hayden and Ewan together again. Seeing Vader pull a Star Destroyer out of the sky, I'm like, am I playing The Force Unleashed here? Did I fall asleep and I'm watching The Force Unleashed? I thought the breakdancing Reva Vader fight was pretty fun. There was a couple moments where I'm just kind of like, though, I'm kind of confused how this a little bit works, but you know what? I'll save the critical opinions till after the series goes in. I've got some critical thoughts. I thought the hunting Vader twist was okay, but I'm like, sis, you've been around this guy for like 10 years, and like, did he just like, oh, hey, we got Youngling over here. You guys want to recruit her? She knows a mannequin. Yeah. Nothing will go wrong with this. Come on, let's bring it back in the ship.
Yeah, this episode did give us a lot of answers to things we were wondering about. I don't think that anybody was particularly surprised at Reva's backstory. That's something that I think was pretty obvious. I actually did doubt it, though, just because I felt like maybe the fact is that she's what in the flashbacks 9, 10 at the most. I mean, so canonically she can only be like 19 or 20 years old, and Moses Ingram is almost a full decade older than that. That kind of threw me off, where it was like, is that the way that they're going? I mean, it's obviously not unheard of for an actor to be playing 10 years younger, especially when it comes to, you often see high schoolers being played by 30-year-olds, but
we had it this episode. We had 40-year-old Hayden playing 18 to 19-year-old Anakin.
That's true.
And Moses is lucky. Black don't crack. Like I thought she was like 22. She looks good.
Oh, she looks fantastic and plays it well. So I don't know why I was kind of, I was really kind of thinking like, oh, maybe they'll go someplace else. I mean, it was pretty obvious where they were going.
I do feel like I wish they had more time. I felt like almost everyone realized she was the Padawan. So I'm like, hey guys, you could reveal this in episode 3 and we can spend the next couple episodes, fleshing it out. Now it feels like we have one more episode where I'm like, I've watched all your Disney Plus shows before, and this is 6th episode. I'm worried about the Disney Plus curse because it's like the 5th episode is the one everyone says is the best, and then the 6th episode, everyone, Moon Knight, Falcon and Winter Soldier, Loki,
WandaVision.
Oh, we're not talking about WandaVision. That's in my I'll get attacked by Wanda stands on Twitter. But I got some thoughts with you, Lizzie. But yeah, the 6th episode is where everyone goes, wow, I really think Disney Plus should stop with the 6 episode format. Every time. So I'm a little worried about next week.
Yeah.
Do you guys think they actually used any CGI on Hayden Christensen in that part? Because they definitely looked a bit older. Like, I know that, they probably did have some stuff done to them, but it kind of almost looked like it was just makeup, in my opinion. I mean, it didn't look like their face was really fake. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
From what I've read, they did some light de-aging, but not much.
Obi-Wan had like a glow to him. There was like
well, there's a reason for that.
Go for it.
But he's Space Jesus. He's Obi-Wan. We've all seen the memes.
That's
true. Space Jesus's hair wasn't quite on point. That really bugged me.
That was a bad wig. That was a bad wig.
I can't even really tell if it was a wig. I mean, his hair was long enough. It almost looked like it was just a lot of product in it. I couldn't really tell, but all I know is that like when you compare it to what it looks like in Attack of the Clones and even Revenge of the Sith, like it looks so crunchy.
Yeah, I was not to be critical, but one thought I did have is, I don't know, Hayden has now 40, Ewan is older. Wouldn't it have been easier if you guys did like the Revenge of the Sith hair and low lighting, so the hair and the lighting can do a little masking job. This one's like, okay, we're gonna turn the exposure all the way to 3, gonna bright you guys up so we can see every single crevice, like crow's feet and wrinkle. I'm like, guys, you could have made it dim. Coruscant always has this little orange glow in it.
I think I do prefer, though, that they didn't go overboard. I think that there was probably a little bit of smoothing going on, but I think that it was smart to not try to do them up with CGI as much. I wondered if it was going to be too difficult when you're thinking that it's basically an entire fight scene. They're moving constantly. I didn't know if that was something that would make it more difficult, but honestly, I'm just kind of tired of the, I think that the technology is impressive, but I'm definitely one of those people who would err on the side of, I think that less de-aging technology is going to give fewer regrets in the future.
I would agree with that. I think the less is more kind of approach here. He looked a little off at the beginning, but once they started moving, it wasn't as noticeable. It was just a little bit off, not as much as some of the really complete de-aging that we've seen in the series. I thought it looked, pretty good. Made me instantly want a Clone Wars movie. Just give it to us.
I also think that if it's in their memories, it doesn't matter if they look the same. When you think about when you were 10 years old, you don't usually think of yourself, looking 10. You see yourself there. So I just kind of looked at it like, if this truly is a flashback, then Obi-Wan is seeing Anakin, I don't know, that, Obi-Wan seeing Anakin in a way that maybe he thinks Anakin would age up a little bit, but Anakin's seeing Obi-Wan, and like, I don't know, I just kind of looked at it like, it doesn't really matter. It did not bother me.
So there's a part of me,
they're older. That's it. Like, okay, they're older. I can deal with that.
Yeah.
There's a part of me that thinks that was just something that the viewer saw, that there wasn't actually them. I mean, they timed it and spliced it together to make it look like it was flashbacks. But there's a part of me that was just that they weren't actually having flashbacks. They weren't actually thinking that about that training session. But I could be completely wrong.
Oh, I think that it's ambiguous. Yeah, I don't think that it was ever stated that anybody's having a flashback, but I do think that it was. I heard somebody say that it could be Anakin's trials that he obviously fails, which is the reason why he's still a Padawan in Attack of the Clones. And I was like, oh, that would be really interesting. But then, like, I mean, I think that the bigger point is that, you know, at the end there, when Anakin does fail and Obi-Wan is able to disarm him basically through means other than violence, which is kind of the whole point, then we get that tie-in to New Hope, which is that Vader is still a student at this point. So when we get the line about when I left you, I was but a learner, Vader is still dealing with these things that have plagued him, this need to prove himself since he was a Padawan. So I guess I did look at it like maybe this is Vader's memory, but that definitely wasn't specified.
I do know what it used to be, because I know some people who worked on Kenobi. This was supposed to be in the next episode, and they moved into this, and that's the most I can say without spoiling the next episode for everybody here. But if anyone does want to know, you guys can DM me, and I'll spoil what it was originally supposed to be.
Okay, well, we'll talk after next week's episode.
Okay.
But any other thoughts? Anybody? I mean, we got all other kinds of. We got a lot of questions answered. We got Tala's backstory. What else did we get? We got
Tala's backstory. We got the return of the Grand Inquisitor. Apparently, everyone was lucky in the universe but Qui-Gon. He's the only guy to get penetrated by Darth Maul and doesn't come back. Oh, Satine!
Is that
Satine.
not what I've been saying all day on our chat?
Satine, no, I guess it's just Darth Maul. Darth Maul is just really good at killing people, and no one else is. He stabs Satine and Qui-Gon, and they go.
But what I had a friend who just made a post about this, and I thought, oh, that's a really good way to think about it. I'm trying to find it. Basically what she was saying was, well, of course those are the ones who die. Why do all of the bad guys come back? Because that's the whole point. They're being sustained through their hatred and the dark side. So
why can't Jedi just be happy and heal themselves?
But that's the thing, is Jedi don't fear becoming one with hold the reality.
I am a little curious though. How did Reva survive twice? Because I'm like, you got stabbed twice. You better play the space lottery now, because you just keep getting back up. You giving Palpatine a run for his money at this point.
Yeah, I think once in the show, but 3 times is kind of pushing it a little bit.
She's tough. She's gonna say, Darth Maul, you ain't got nothing on me. I came back.
I mean,
speaking of Reva,
yeah, it's plot armor.
Yeah.
DDoc?
Speaking of Reva, yeah, I do think that was one of her best episodes. I thought the scene where her and Obi-Wan were talking to each other through the wall, I thought that was one of her best moments in the show, honestly. I thought, just the emotion of that scene. And, let's be honest, a lot of fans guessed that she was, one of the younglings in Order 66, but it was interesting to see her kind of break character of, the badass person who just wants to kill to being, to just having an actual conversation. I mean, it's pretty much the first conversation she had without either, giving orders or, telling, going after somebody or whatever. It was just her first one-to-one conversation. I thought it was pretty damn good.
What I really thought was interesting is that we did get the backstories both for Tala and Reva this episode. And it's kind of interesting how Tala signed up to join the Empire when she believed that there was actually a reason to. She was committed to the Empire. And then when she realizes that the Empire was as evil as it was, she starts to, fight against it in kind of an Oscar Schindler type way, where she's still a part of the establishment but trying to be a light there. But then you've got Reva, who, we don't know her whole backstory yet, but she's a Jedi coming from the Jedi Temple, and she, probably ends up in this position. She's seeking Vader out, but obviously she's tempted by this desire to seek her revenge. And so she comes in not really as a willing participant, but then does give herself over fully. She's the one cutting off arms, and I'm sure she's done far worse things over the last 10 years in order to try to work her way up the hierarchy in order to get close to Vader. But it's kind of interesting to see the two of them kind of as foils in this story.
That's a good point.
Agree.
I will say one thing. I'm going to be the critical SOB this whole entire meeting. I will say one thing that kind of bothered me was about Talia, which, spoiler alert, if for some reason you decided not to listen to a spoiler alert at the beginning, when she was dying and Obi-Wan is screaming his head off, I'm like, you just met her, my guy. You're getting a little passionate there. And that's because I guess they kept in some parts of the romance she was supposed to have with Obi-Wan, but I'm like, guys, maybe should have dialed it back. You have Obi-Wan screaming at the top of his lungs, and I think it's a good idea. You don't do a romance. You guys just met. I know Ewan McGregor he's very handsome. He's very handsome. I would start a romance with him if I could, but dial it back.
Two things. So O'Shea Jackson's character in the previous episode went from I want to I get out of here, don't be around us, to I will help you in the same sentence. And so that was rather fast and abrupt. But I feel like Talia gave herself to Obi-Wan, saved him from the stormtroopers in episode 2. She went into the Imperial facility and got him into the Inquisitors. So she's put her life on the line several times for him, and finally gave her life for him. So I think there is a healthy bit of respect from him to her. So I don't really have a problem with him having that pull or that love interest.
Okay, some thoughts on this, because obviously I'm going to watch this and I'm going to filter it through my love of Satine and everything that happened with that. And it is kind of funny to look at, like, he does not react to Satine's death at all in that emotional way that we saw in this episode. And it's kind of like, well, why? And it's actually kind of interesting because I know that James Arnold Taylor, the voice actor for Obi-Wan, kind of did push to have Obi-Wan be more outwardly emotional, and Dave Filoni was like, nope, he's reacting, but we're going to see it on his face. We're going to rely on the animators. And it's just kind of interesting that I like what we got. but James's instinct might have been a little bit more in line with what we saw. But I just kind of think, like, this is very different.
I think she froze. Just me?
You did.
Yeah.
Is frozen right now. I thought it was me at first because
I was worried it was me.
Having my,
We're back to the technical difficulties piece of the show.
He's
you're back.
On. Oh, there you are. She is this person that he's relying on, and Leia adores her, and so I think that there is a connection that's being formed. But I don't know. I think that there's a lot that could be said about just him being at a very different stage in his life, and even the idea of, like, he's been cut off from the Force for a long time. So I think that in the Clone Wars, he was far more, like that was who he was. He was, plugged into that. And he was also desperately trying not to react because that's what Darth Maul wanted at that time. So I think that, like, it's kind of comparing apples and oranges, where I think that, like, maybe this is kind of Obi-Wan reacting as a more instinctual reaction than what we've seen in the past. He was also very emotional with Qui-Gon.
Yes, that's true. So maybe it's just the difference between how Dave Filoni writes Obi-Wan and how, say, the Ewan McGregor version of the interpretation, which, when Ewan McGregor says, "I'm going to get emotional now. Turn the cameras off and I smash it." You're gonna let him get emotional. I don't actually think Ewan McGregor smashes cameras. That's a fake joke. He's not a drama queen.
Well, we have plenty of Twitter friends who would know that, because I saw a lot of familiar faces from Twitter in that episode. I saw Rexing around multiple times.
Corey Van Dyke, some other people that apparently I knew but just didn't know at the time. Yeah, apparently the episodes were
wild.
Yeah, no, it really is wild. I'm happy for them. I got a little mad because one of the people were like coming after them, like saying, "Oh, they shouldn't be," and I'm like, "Yo, this is a Star Wars fan dream." If someone said, "Hey, you want to be in Kenobi?" You'd be sprinting there. Like, enjoy the moment. Let people be happy. That's great.
Christina Ariel was in the back again as well. She's been in the last she was in the Last Beam episode too. So she's got a nice big afro and it's gorgeous to be able to see her in the background.
I love it.
If I ever got a role in Star Wars, I would be the guy from Book of Boba Fett who had the mustache, who was, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's Book of Boba Fett, where he was working the concierge desk where the mayor was. Yeah, that's the guy I would be. I would have a small role, but I would be remembered for the mustache. That's about it.
I would be the Gamorrean guard. Let's be honest here. So I think,
or a Wookiee.
No, I'm not tall enough to be a Wookiee, but I have the dad bod that is a Gamorrean guard. So, and I would have no problem. That would be the easiest, the least amount of stretching needed.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Brent. I'd just be a shorter Gamorrean guard, but yeah.
I don't know. They were going after each other, when they're in the fight ring in Mando. So you could be doing that. That might require some stretching.
There were some skinnier ones there too, yeah. But that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
I think I would be a stormtrooper and I would die in the first 5 seconds. Yeah, that'd be me.
Speaking of stormtroopers, how about that force push right when the door was open and Obi-Wan kind of sent probably like 15 people back, that was pretty, I thought that was pretty solid. Brent, I want to know your thoughts on it.
When you push back a whole window of water rushing through and the pressure to that, I think you've learned the ability to throw a solid force push away. So
that's true, actually.
It is kind of interesting, though, that in both of those instances, it's a push. It's a very defensive move, as opposed to I don't know if it's him actively using the Force in the way that we think of usually.
But I see Obi-Wan, so this is also me coming in from my Star Wars Legion game. But even when I've watched him, Obi-Wan is a very defensive-minded individual. Like, he comes in and his whole thing, and they even said it in here, that Vader knows that I'm going to do everything in my power to protect these people. Like, his first goal is to protect. He is not going in there to try to kill the lightsaber, to try to swing in and kill the stormtroopers. He's going in there to deflect the blaster bolts to let other people run away.
But he has been known to do some attacking, usually for droids, because we saw them in Revenge of the Sith when he's like, just gonna lower these platforms on the droids, and with the clone troopers with Revenge of the Sith when he's trying to get back into the temple. He has Qui-Gon philosophy, I will do what I must.
Right, and I feel like he goes on the offensive, and I'm fine with that, but he only does that, I feel like, when he feels like it's a last resort or he has to. Right, so I'll do it if I need to, but I'm gonna try to play the other cards, which is the whole reason why he surrendered and told Reva to come after Vader, so he didn't have to do the attack, because he saw another way around it. He's just very defensive in his thinking and the way that he goes about his Jedi business.
Well, his fighting form.
We do see a couple cracks in the armor, though, in Clone Wars, which I really like, which is always with Maul, and it's the arc where Maul first comes back, and there's Hondo, and there's the moment where Sauvage kills Adigalia, and Obi-Wan actually takes his saber and like is about to strike Savage down out of anger, and Maul actually parries and stops him, which I've always thought is really interesting. And then in that same episode later on, that's the one where Maul is taunting him about the fact that he couldn't save Qui-Gon, and then you actually see him go into a really lilting and awkward, offensive fighting style, as opposed to his usual defensive Soresu.
Yeah, who knew Mr. Krabs would usher in like a dark age of Obi-Wan's life? For those who don't know, the voice actor for Mr. Krabs plays Darth Maul's brother. And I think that's the funniest thing ever. Are you feeling it now, Mr. Qui-Gon?
You mentioned the word lightsaber, and it brought me to an image of this episode when Obi-Wan sees the crate of like 10 lightsabers and Jedi robes. Like that was kind of, I didn't expect to see that, because now, did they give up those weapons? Were they dead Jedi that they came across? Or did the Jedi give up the weapons in their robes to go into hiding as they were being ferried out across the...
They might have given up on being a Jedi, because that did happen across, I don't know how much they've done in the new canon, but a lot of the time in Legends, Jedi just put down the lightsaber and cloaks, like, yeah, I'm just going to live my life as best as I can without being a Jedi, and carrying my Jedi robes and my lightsaber may make that harder. Or they could be dead. I thought I saw Mace Windu's lightsaber there, and I almost had a mental breakdown at 3 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah, I couldn't tell who the lightsabers belonged to. I saw somebody say that one of them looked like Barriss Offee's, but nobody can really tell for sure. So I think that they were probably just props picked up from the prequel movies or something like that. I don't know, but
more than likely, I think it was just for, hey, what, we need to give this guy like a lightsaber and a cloak. It looks good. Give him a lightsaber and a cloak.
That just always bugs me though, when there are those moments where you could put in some really deep cuts related to characters that the casual audience would never care about, but would just make the Twitterites go nuts.
Twitterites, I like that.
Anybody who's crazy enough to be on Twitter.
I wondered why they didn't use them. Just, I mean, obviously they're not Jedi, but since Vader and the Inquisitors are the ones trying to get in, I thought, why not use them as subterfuge to buy yourself more time? If they were to think there was a whole clan of Jedi in, they may have stopped and backed off a little bit and readjusted their attack.
That's a good point.
Speaking of attacks, this is a real, there's actually some positives I want to say, because I've been kind of a negative person. Kenobi did something that addressed one of the biggest complaints I had about The Last Jedi. It's actually done that a lot. Kenobi, on a lot of parts for me, has been The Last Jedi done right. But one thing it definitely did was there was this moment in The Last Jedi in the Battle of Crate when everyone's secure behind this big door, and instead of, using their location to their advantage and fighting their way out as they try to find an escape, they just send everyone to die in a suicide attack with outgunned, outmanned. It made no sense. Here, everyone's like, no, we'll stay in the cave, we'll fight, we'll hold our positions, get as many as we can as we make our escape, and it just made a lot more sense there. It did.
I agree with you, but then the only thing that my brain goes to is when you take off out of the starport, or when you take off out of there, you're going to fly into a Star Destroyer that's out in the atmosphere, and they're just going to tractor beam you in.
Oh yeah, no, they should have died right there. I have no idea.
Which brings me to
no idea how they survived. They could still track them to at the end of The Last Jedi, so it's like, okay, whatever.
And their hyperspeed is down, so.
Which is my big tie into The Last Jedi, and I really hope this ties into the last episode, because it's one of the most important things in the history of Star Wars. How much fuel do they have?
Oh my God, I'm gonna kill myself. No, don't get me started on my Last Jedi rant. We'll be here for another hour, because I got it in me. I hold it in.
Well done, Alfie. Well done,
baby.
Well done.
And if they had 2 ships, why didn't they take off earlier? Why was everybody just standing around waiting?
Because they had to wait to get
one.
They had 2, because Vader rips the first one, but
I'm saying even before Kenobi got there, why were all those people still just waiting?
Because they had to wait for Leia to open the door.
No, even
But the door
before
was
that.
open. He's saying before Leia gets there,
They did
there
explain
should
that.
be
They
no
did
one
explain
there.
that. They said they had a. They said that they usually have a window to leave, and they held it until Talia came back with Leia and Kenobi. But I feel like a
But they
lot of
had
these
2
episodes
ships.
have been. Yeah, I know. I feel like a lot of these episodes have been chopped up and kind of edited around because I'm like, they did extensive reshoots. I don't know how much you guys know about the production of Kenobi,
Yes.
but the original writer Hussein, he wrote it. Then we had Joby Harold, who's I'll give my opinions on him another day. He came in to do the rewrites, and now Andrew Station has done some more rewrites. So we got 3 different writers here, and it's kind of the telephone game where if you're like, this doesn't make sense with that, that's kind of the reason. Also, reshoots with the volume technology is extremely hard to do. It's not like the green screens are like on set location. So sometimes you gotta keep the footage you have, even if it doesn't really make with the context, because you just don't have enough time to reshoot it, and it's incredibly expensive.
Right, I get that.
All right,
Why is
so
it so hard to get a writer for Star Wars? I'm sorry, Brent. I just looked up. I had my hand in my head, but why is it so hard to just get a consistent writer? It's like there's so many good shows. You know, you got Amazon Prime, you've got Netflix, you've got all these streaming platforms where people have these shows. It's like, just get a writer for Kenobi. Just be like, this is our guy. We're riding with you no matter what. I mean, did I know that before? No, I didn't. I mean, it's frustrating for me to hear that stuff, which like I kind of blindly enjoy stuff sometimes, but like that is frustrating.
so a lot of those
Oh, sorry, you go.
a lot of those shows that you talk about have writing teams. They have people that write together, and they don't just rely on one person to write it. So there are a lot of those stories that you're talking about for all those shows have a writing team that creates that. Second, the Star Wars fandom, like right now, I feel like I really enjoyed watching this episode, but we have done nothing but kind of critique it.
Yep.
And that is the 100% thing that every Star Wars fan is doing, is critiquing everything of it. It was a great show. It was fun. There was nothing but enjoyment for watching that. So, but I know that like we've spent time picking out things that we didn't like. But and things that I do like. I mean, I liked Leia. And how Obi-Wan stood up for Leia, and she said, "I'm gonna go up there and try to fix it because I can fit in there." I'm trying to think of some other I liked the Vader Reva fight. But yeah, so I think that's why the writers, and because everything comes across as so negative. So,
I think that we need to make sure that we realize that for professional writers, Joby Harold is not a Star Wars. Joby Harold is not a Twitterite. He is not somebody who spends 8 hours a day dissecting these stories in order to be up on all of the lore. He is paid to write a good story that deals with the themes of Star Wars as he sees them, which doesn't, we've seen that when that happens, it doesn't always match up with the way that the majority of the fandom sees it. But the thing is that I also think that it's important to remember that no story is going to be without plot holes, and at some point as a writer you have to get over that. I do a lot of writing, and if you get bogged down in making sure that everything has a logistical reason for being, you will not get through a story. And I think that it's the reason why I am not a fan of cinema sins and those kinds of videos, because I think that they go way overboard.
They're not even critical. They're nitpickers at that point.
Yeah, well, they're nitpickers, but they started out with the whole reason for being is a good point, which is that there is no story that is without criticism when it comes to the story or the characters or whatnot. There are going to be things that don't make sense. And just as one overarching example, I mean, that I again, to bring it back to Clone Wars, the one episode that is consistently held up as the best episode is the Lawless, where Satine dies. That episode hinges on the fact that she calls Obi-Wan Kenobi and she does not say one thing, which is that there are 2 Zabraks here on the throne, and she knows that that's the case. Well, when you look at that, the entire episode would have gone completely differently if that had been the case, but they can't have her say that because she's supposed to die. And that's the kind of thing where I just go, we have to remember that if we get too bogged down in, oh, why didn't they just take off early, or why didn't they, do this or that, then ultimately what we're doing is sacrificing the overarching story, which is just that the plot's got to work in order to tell this message that we want to tell people.
Well, I do want to debate that a little bit, just because, while I do agree every piece of writing is going to have flaws no matter how you write it. I've been doing screenwriting. I studied screenwriting when I was a teenager. Then I'd been doing screenwriting since I got out of college. Some ghostwriting. You're gonna make mistakes. I've looked back on some writing where I'm like, I fucked up there. Really did. But I do agree with what Doc is saying, because I think he was saying a little different point. When you have one consistent writer or writing team, no matter the flaws you do make, when it's one consistent vision, you're going to be able to keep it consistent throughout, versus when you're constantly handing the baton to different people. Because you bring up the Clone Wars, but the Clone Wars had like a very consistent team. You had George, you had Dave, and you had those people. And even if not all episodes were great, no, some episodes made me go, okay, you guys were sipping on the spice a little bit behind the scenes there. It's okay. But it stays consistent, even if some episodes were worse than others. Likewise, with a lot of the episodes for The Mandalorian, The Book of Boba Fett, or Star Wars Rebels, you had Carrie Beck, Simon Kingberg, and Dave Filoni, a very consistent team throughout everything. But then when it comes to some of these other projects, like, well, Kenobi, the sequel trilogy, you're trading the baton off sometimes for reasons of just creative differences, not, oh, well, we did this thing, then he did this thing, we just thought this was right. It's more of, well, we hired you for your vision, we saw your vision, and maybe we should have screened you before we had you write an entire script, but we still want to use some of your ideas. And I think it's more about like timing, planning. Sometimes you need to take a little more time with these productions in pre-production, because I think that's where Star Wars has been struggling with in recent memory, because everyone's doing a great job with principal photography, the actors are doing great, and I'm not even dogging the writers, because Lucasfilm as a studio, they have to do what they think is best, and the writer as a writer will do what his thing is best. So I think, like, before you get to that stage of creative differences, you need to screen people a little better and come to an understanding, and that's what Marvel does. And that's why, even if I think Marvel is very mediocre in some other places, they don't really have that many problems when it comes to having to go through, like, usually 3 writers, 4 writers per project, and then bringing on more writers when that writer is struggling to finish. And that's nothing, no offense to Andrew Station, Joby Harold, or the original writer of Kenobi. It's just, I think it's better if Lucasfilm and their creative team come to an understanding beforehand, especially since, well, you do have a story group who is there, very active on Twitter. I see you, Mr. Poplo. I see you quote tweeting shot by shot. So it's like, you are active, you are able. So, work with the writers a little more hands-on, both of you, and it will be easier. That is why there was a story group created whose very job is the little nitpicks that we pick up on, or big stuff like, the Grand Inquisitor, maybe not stab him because he has to be in Rebels.
but see, I will push back on that a little bit. When you bring a screenwriting perspective, I bring an editing perspective. In my real life job, I work on an editorial team, and the thing is that I agree with you that Disney has had a real problem with this, especially related to Star Wars, and especially like when we look at the sequel trilogy. But the sequel trilogy and the problems that we have here are 2 different ones. Because the sequel trilogy is basically like if Lord of the Rings was written by 3 different authors who each took a book. And it's like, that's ridiculous, right? Like it's no wonder that the whole thing was just really disjointed, because they had 3 different people who were enacting those visions. This one, I know that there was a lot of issues, like, the original writer, it seems like the writing was stalled. There were rumors that it was too close to.
Well, they did finish the scripts originally. When they finished it, it's when Kathy brought Ewan on stage and they had it done, and then they realized that it's too original, it's too similar to The Mandalorian. But not to be someone who's going to question the official word of Kathy, because I have nothing against Kathy. It's just, we are still very similar to The Mandalorian, especially with now Leia being in the entire series, which the only similarities I can say that's the difference is now we've mixed Fallen Order into the mix, with now you know, the Inquisitor base, Reva, Vader. It kind of feels like we mixed a little bit of Fallen Order and a little bit of Rebels. So I'm like, if you guys changed this from the Mandalorian, I'm a little confused what was changed, because we still are very similar to the Mandalorian. And even if it was, you still had to switch writers because of that. Like, I'm pretty sure who's the original writer's not really, I can't remember his first name. I just know it's Hussein something. Yeah, like you did switch writers, but like then you brought Joby Harold in, he finished the script, and then you brought Andrew Station in for more writing. It's not like I feel it's as disjointed as the sequels, but I'm like, I think before you started getting Hussein to write it, there should have been a conversation like, oh, what are you going to do? Oh, well, that's very similar to this other show we're going on. Maybe we should not do that. And I still feel like
Yeah,
we're
but
very similar.
the thing that I wanted to say though is that the idea of reshoots and the way that things might be edited together, that's not really the storytelling issue here. That can, like, I get that like these episodes can kind of vary in length, but in general, I don't view reshoots as as symbolic of a disjointed vision. I view that as the editorial team coming in, you know, and saying, this doesn't quite land right, or this doesn't work as well as it could. And then just like how in my job, we have to take a look over the manuscript again, and we have to identify what needs to move. Well, that's what happens in these shows too. It's just that that act of changing anything requires a whole lot more effort than it does when I have to change something in a manuscript.
Oh no, it does. Like there are, for instance, I brought it up before, the flashback sequence that was moved. Some other things that have disappeared and appeared, those things were moved. Even the Inquisitor being in this episode, that wasn't originally in the series. That I can understand. That I understand that from a production standpoint. There's just some things which the plot structure, where you start to notice as the episodes go on, as you rewatch other episodes, it kind of feels like you're watching a little bit of the telephone game. Like, kind of the tone of this episode and the information given here doesn't match up with the tone and information given here. And yeah, stories grow and evolve, but I think that goes back to taking your time, where I think the completed product is, okay, this is where we wanted the show to be. And I think if they took a little more time on it, they would have got to that stage before it came down to it. Because Lucas had that problem as well. That's why we know he was still editing Revenge of the Sith all the way down to the 11th hour. But these things also kind of hindered George a little bit, where he said, I may have gone too far in a few places. It's 2020. It's hindsight's 2020. So I'm not dogging on the show for that. I enjoy a lot about the show. I just think in Lucasfilm side, which they probably did with Andor, and it was longer, it's got a bigger budget, and they've had one writer for the entire thing. So they've clearly learned their lesson. It's just, I think that way they're doing it will get them much farther than the way they did this, because this kind of felt like, we really want to get it out there for the fans. I kind of just a little bit bit them.
Alfie, what do you got, sir?
To kind of expand on this, I know we're kind of talking this to death, but you know, I really like this series. I really like this episode, and I've been, you know, giving them the benefit of the doubt and trying not to nitpick so much. But the end of this episode really got me. I don't see Vader leaving her like that when he just a few episodes said, "You are what you made me," to Kenobi, and he's basically leaving her in the same situation. She's not dead. He stabbed her, you know, and the Grand Inquisitor just told her how to survive what happened to her, and they're going to close the door and walk away and assume she dies. To me, I just thought that was a little too obvious that, hey, she's going to be okay. It already happened to him, and like I said before, doing it twice in a show, actually 3 times if she did get stabbed in the flashback or slashed with a lightsaber. You know, I think that's a little too much for a 6-episode series for it just to keep happening over and over again. That
I don't think
you don't die.
I don't think she got stabbed as a youngling. I think what she said was that she just played dead because everybody else was flying.
There's one shot
around
where it shows from her perspective and the lightsaber goes in front of her. I don't know if she got stabbed either. I mean, maybe not. I don't know. It just kind of gave the impression that she did. But yes, she said she played dead. But like I said, I don't see, Vader basically making another Vader. I would think, and to me, he seems more cruel than that, than to just stab her once and leave her, possibly to come back.
He just snapped the neck of a villager, of like a child villager,
Right.
2 or 3 episodes ago. Like, I see where you're coming from.
And then they're just gonna walk back past her ship and just leave it there. It's just, I don't know. I know it's too nitpicky, but to me that just bothered me.
It's a spoiler why I can't get.
Yeah, I've read it too. I know what.
Yeah, you know why it's.
Yeah.
Things were stuff. Stuff was stuff.
Right.
Things were stuff and stuff was stuff, and Babu Frick is God. I have not mentioned Babu Frick this whole episode. I'm sorry, everyone. I'm taking over this podcast to say I'm so happy Babu Frick is going to be in the
Did you see the
This is my
Mando trailer?
hyper-obsession.
There's 3 of them.
Yes. I love
So
this.
there's more Babu Frick?
They showed 3 of them.
Yes. I love Babu Frick.
I held up 3.
This is my literal
Frick
obsession.
family.
Catch
Is it-
the 3.
That's awesome.
Is-
He was probably one of the best
Is it
things from
confirmed
this.
that it is Babu Frick?
Absolutely not, but I'm gonna gaslight myself into believing it is, and then be horribly disappointed. And then I'm gonna rent a truck, buy some sunglasses, get a trucker hat, and start blaming Disney.
Yeah.
for it.
I just watched it today, and he's sitting there working on a droid. So if it's not him, that's pretty cold.
Please make it Babu Frick. I just want one thing from this franchise now. My very weird niche hyper obsession of that little creepy thing from The Rise of Skywalker. I love it to death.
He's the best part of that movie.
The best part of the franchise. He's my favorite thing of the sequel trilogy.
Can I also say that I love the fact that she used a thermal detonator? Like, we actually see a thermal detonator used. Like, we've seen it held up and it's been threatened. I've used them in video games, but this is the first time that I've seen a thermal detonator used. Now, I don't remember the Clone Wars. I'm sure somebody's like, well, somewhere in one of those arcs, they used them all the time. I just saw it in live action, so.
Yeah, didn't 99 pass him out?
Did they use them? It was in live action. When in live action have they used the thermal detonator?
Well, the Death Troopers used a different version, but they threw something that blew up.
I have a question. Did any of you guys think when the stormtrooper transport ships were going down to the planet, did you think they were going to show the inside shot of the lights flickering and all the stormtroopers?
I'm like, give me my TFA callback.
That's what I was actually really hoping they would show that with a storm, like a original trilogy stormtrooper version. Sorry, I just hit my mic if that hurt your ears, but I was definitely hoping for that. But there was one more thing I was thinking about in this episode, and now it's when she shows him the marks on her holster. Like I feel like one storyline they've been trying to play out through this is like Kenobi realizing like there is a rebellion like starting to happen here, because he's seeing all these people here, and he's seeing them banding together. And he's seeing, unity, I guess you could say, and fight from them. And I think it is making him kind of be like, holy crap, man, like these people really are putting their lives on the line. Like I need to do the same, I need to just stop hiding and watching, and, I got to put it on the line for them as well,
Well, he kind of has to keep hiding though, he can't leave he can't leave my favorite character alone, because I'll travel to the screen and strangle you, Mr. Kenobi. But no, you do have a good point. I actually am wondering when does Obi-Wan go from living in the cave and hanging out with, I think, Tito the Jawa, to he has his little place, he has his little setup, and he's now in some more communication with Bail, because we know he's not in like consistent communication, but by the time of Rogue One, Bail's like, oh, I will contact my friend, and we know his friend is Obi-Wan. So we know somewhere between now and then, him and Bail start like a consistent communication.
Well, does that necessarily imply that it's a consistent communication, or does that just imply the fact that I know somebody who I can reach out to that'll come when I reach out to him?
I mean, maybe somewhat, because like, they've been inconsistent now, and oh, look, Leia's gone. So maybe after this point, Obi-Wan's like, hello, Bail, just checking in on Leia to make sure we don't have another galaxy hopping quest. You did hire those guards, right? 20 in every door. Did you check the force for Sting? I want to make sure there's no more bald guys hanging out to kidnap my goddaughter.
Flee,
How
not
is Leia?
Sting. Flee, not Sting.
Flee.
They look the same, actually.
I'm showing my age by mixing up classic rock stars that I do not remember or know.
Okay, so here's my thoughts on that. I don't think that they're in communication in the 10 years between this and Rogue One, just because I don't think it's necessary. They're gonna have to deal with whatever's gonna happen on Tatooine in the next episode. But I think that the whole idea is that they're not supposed to be in communication because it probably has the danger of potentially drawing attention. At least that's always been kind of the assumptions that I've had. I just assumed that Obi-Wan will still have his nice little comm pager that Bail will be able to call him at again. Though I suppose
He doesn't have it
that's
anymore.
broken now. But the thing is that it doesn't matter.
Rita's got it.
Yeah, but the thing is that like, well, then maybe that's the answer. No, they are not in communication, but it's not like Bail doesn't know where he is. He knows where the Lars are. That's gonna be the whole point for the next episode. In A New Hope, he doesn't calm Obi-Wan. He sends Leia to him, which means that Obi-Wan probably doesn't have a communicator in the first place.
I mean, to be fair, if we are going,
There's
off
payphones.
Oh my, not anymore. No, actually, no. They removed the last payphone.
That's true. There
In
are
New
no
York City,
payphones anymore.
They were in Book of Boba Fett.
I forgot that there's a Book of Boba Fett payphone. I'm not gonna get on the Book of Boba Fett because I have some very harsh critical opinions on that series that I'm not gonna get into. But no, there's that point. They aren't in communication. They probably are not in communication. I guess Leia and Ben will not have those tea parties. My fan fiction.
That makes me really sad.
Can he just buy another one?
No, slavery's illegal. They can't buy any more kids on Tatooine.
No, I mean another communicator.
Oh, I thought you were talking about.
I
thought you were talking about child. Like, no,
that was
can't
so
happen
smooth. Oh, Okiro, that was like not even hesitating. That was well timed.
Why did your mind go to that?
That was fantastic.
I miss me Skywalker.
Can he just go to Space T-Mobile and get a new device? And
No. They don't have that coverage
Apple
out there.
Care.
send Bail that text. You know, we all send people. This is my new number.
They have like Space Cricket out there. They don't have T-Mobile. They have,
Space Cricket.
Okay. So we've hammered this episode to death. We've got one more episode. It's probably going to be a bit longer than the other ones.
I mean, shorter. I'll lose my mind.
Please God, no. I'm so. You got Stranger Things out here getting a film for every episode, and I'm tired of getting sitcom length.
It's just going to be one long episode.
Disney,
dealing with fuel.
Disney, make it 22 minutes. Make it 22 minutes, Disney. I want the chaos.
Right. Give me 22 minutes with no Qui-Gon Jinn voice, and just wait for Twitter to lose its, like, they would be decapitated. Their minds would explode.
And 8 minutes of credits.
DDoc, before we go any further, DDoc, what are some of the questions from the TikTok people?
Okay. One of them was Alfie's, which was the justice for Qui-Gon. Why does everybody else die but Qui-Gon? I feel like we did kind of touch on
Why
that.
does no one die in Star Wars anymore?
I seriously. So can I go 1 second into that? So I'll give a shout out to Willie Harms. I saw on Twitter. I'm not on Twitter all the time, but he said something about Taika Waititi's movie. And the quote was from Taika that he wants to use completely new characters because he wants to get away from the sequel, the Skywalker saga. And I think that is amazing. And I think a lot of the reason why we nitpick Obi-Wan is because it's a legacy character. It's got Luke and it's got Leia and it's got all that. I think another reason why Andor will be a little bit more successful is because it doesn't have the legacy characters.
You don't know that.
No.
It's got two. It's got some of them, but I don't know if they're going to be made.
Mon Mothra, she's looking. The queen is slaying in that new dress. Like, go girl. Then we got Andor. We got Forrest Whitaker's Saw Gerrera. He's coming back in his beautiful, beautiful baldness. Can't wait to see that.
Cool.
Yeah, no. As long as Star Wars keeps giving me beautiful, powerful lady politicians, I'm gonna be here because they're my favorite.
They are my favorite too. I love you, Mon Mothra.
Yes. So yeah, no, I am excited though because you're right. We put way too much expectation on these shows when it's especially the legacy characters. Honestly, I'm excited that this show has been as well received as it is, because we've had 3 years to think about what this could possibly be like. I mean, I have an entire storyline that I would have liked to have seen. And I know that, I mean, thankfully for me, I'm able to kind of set that aside and just be like, I had what I hoped we were going to see. That's not going to happen. I'm just going to, accept what we get and judge it on its own merits. Some people, I think, they get a little bit too attached to their own pet theories, and then when things don't happen, it's hard for them to let that go. But I think that on the whole, this series has been surprising in really good ways. It's been it's pushed the boundaries in ways that nobody really expected, and that's not at all to say that there aren't issues to criticize, but I am really excited that a legacy character's story has been as celebrated as it is. I was really worried that this was just going to bomb and it was just going to be awful, especially because I know that you and Hayden were really excited about this. So I don't know. I'm really skeptical if they were going to come back and do like a part 2, because I'm just kind of like, let's let sleeping dogs lie. I don't really want to chance this again. But Andor, as we've said, that's going to be a little bit different. That's, the Mandalorian season 1 just kind of blew everybody away. And a big reason was because we had no expectations. We didn't know what what this story was going to be about. And so we didn't come in with any preconceived notions. Season 2, you start to see a little bit more of that nitpickiness coming. Well, no, I mean, yes, but that's not what I mean. But in terms of like, fans who sit on TikTok or sit on Twitter and TikTok and Tumblr and all these places and just theorize for 8 hours a day, it's the hiatuses that make these big franchises have a problem with creating new content, because that's where everybody's thinking up their theories. And so I think that like Andor season 1 is just, I think it's going to be exceptionally well received. And I think that because there isn't a ton of expectation around these particular characters, including what legacy characters there are, that fans are going to be really open to whatever we get. Season 2, I could see there being a little bit more of pushback, but at the same time, we know where Andor's story ends. So it's not like there's going to be anything so crazy that we don't expect, because we already see the finish line. So
yeah, it's Stardust.
That's right. But it is just really interesting to see how the storytellers are dealing with these, like, telling stories with that different level of expectation, whether it's somebody who's a real true legacy character that fans have spent literally 5 decades thinking about, or people who we kind of know but not really, they can still really be fleshed out, or like the Mandalorian, which was just kind of a blank slate right from the start.
I will say,
go ahead, Okiro.
No, I was just gonna say, I will think we do have. There are like 3 different types of Star Wars fans, like in the making, maybe 4. Like we have the people who are kind of like the ones you talk about, the ones who have these crazy theories that kind of might never happen. They're more interested in what cameos can we get, what references can we get. Like they are really big on spectacle, kind of like that. And then you have the nitpickers, the one where everything is not perfect. They're just gonna flip their keyboard and go insane. And there's kind of like that middle ground of people, the people who kind of take it as it is, and the people who take it as it is but are a little more critical. I kind of think this podcast is somewhere between them. Me being more of the critical person I am, being on the other side. But I think most people, when they walk away from Kenobi, despite the flaws, will say, even that's worse. This series had flaws, but I enjoyed it for what it was. And I think out of all the legacy characters we've had Star Wars handled, just in my opinion, in comparison to Luke,
the sequel trilogy, right.
Oh, not even just them. I'm talking about all the legacy characters, from like Boba Fett.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, that
Boba Fett, Luke. I would say Obi-Wan has been handled the most gracefully, the most respectful, and contextually, all the concepts that have been handled in his series make sense with who he is as a character, which most people can understand. Whereas I feel like some of the stuff that happened with Boba, some of the stuff that happened with Luke, and again, some Han and Leia, if you want to talk about it, I can understand why some people feel more divisively about that. I haven't seen anything in the Kenobi series that made me go, yeah, Obi-Wan wouldn't do that, or this doesn't make sense for Obi-Wan to do that. No, everything's kind of on point, and anything that was different from his character, it's handled very sensitively. And can I just say, I'm actually happy we've had the first kind of live action thing from Disney and Star Wars, Disney in general, that has handled PTSD and trauma in a very sensitive topic. I kind of felt like when it came to that, you had Thor in Endgame and you had Tony in Iron Man 3. I'm like, you guys are handling PTSD as kind of more as a joke and not one of the most horrible things someone can go to. So I really like how they've done that in the series.
I would agree.
They
And
really, Go ahead, Alfie.
I think that the crate of lightsabers, the hoods, the marks on her holster, that is going to be a vehicle to help Obi-Wan get over that PTSD and focus on, the chosen, who he sees as the chosen one and the hope for the galaxy.
Yeah, no,
I
I agree.
Talia kind of says that, like the dialogue from Talia, she kind of was the mentor leading, saying like, I've been struggling with this and you have to feel like what the back to tank, you don't need your physical health. You also need your mental, like you need to heal your mind as well. Like she's been the one trying to like, and now she's not there, which I am sad because I really like that character.
I like the actress too. And now she's, she's Stardust like Cassian and Jin.
I was hoping that at least one woman in Obi-Wan's life wouldn't die before his eyes, but
Impossible. They're like,
I was sad to see Ned go.
Yes. I liked Ned, but at the same time, she didn't die before his eyes. The blast door was shut.
that's okay.
She died before his ears.
There you go.
I'm just thinking of the writers like, okay, guys, we're writing an Obi-Wan Kenobi show. Have we hit all the checklists? Charming? Yes. Traumatized? Yes. Wait. We're missing something. Oh!
Love interest dies.
Love interest dies or woman dies, Peter, or someone Obi-Wan cares about has to die. Do we have to kill someone this man cares about in everything he's in?
Yes.
Absolutely. It's the rule. And if we have a comic, he has to die. Someone has to die too. We will make him befriend the Jawa, then run that Jawa over. You guys are sick and twisted. Yep.
You're the emotional damage guy. Emotional damage.
Yes.
Take that sound.
DDoc, what else you got? Oh, sorry. What else you got?
Just wanted to say something though, because Brent, I think that you were the one who mentioned, Tala's not there anymore. You kind of mentioned like I didn't really get the idea, like she's his mentor figure. She is Ben Kenobi in this series, which is really kind of interesting because she's going through what he's going to have to go through and dealing with his past. But the thing is that who's there for him now? I mean, it's Leia. And Leia's the one who, it was just so heartwarming to see them hugging and stuff this episode. But I just go back to the fact that like the name that Leia used when they were pretending to be farmers was Luma, and Luma means light. And it's just very clear, like that's what this whole story is about, is this unexpected bond between Obi-Wan and Leia, but that she's the one who helps him turn the light back on. And that's what I just think is so beautiful.
I thought you were about to say the whole episode, the whole series was about farmers, where I'm like, okay, that's kind of right from a perspective. Luke is a farmer.
That's true too. Luke also means light. So there's the parallel between the two of them.
Ah.
So I had two more TikTok questions, and I'll give them a shout out because they're always interacting with us on there. And we're growing on TikTok too. I think we're starting to get some listeners from there as well. So Ryan Grimm 33, I'm gonna rattle off both of these, and I'll let you guys go off of them. Number one is from Ryan Grimm 33, is Kenobi better than Qui-Gon? So I guess he's saying, is Kenobi more powerful than Qui-Gon was? And then from Autobahn Beep Beep, which has an incredible Lego collection, I'm extremely jealous of it. Do you think we will have another duel between Vader and Kenobi before the series ends? Which is a question I was asking myself as well, because I'm wondering, like, now, is this leading to a Reva Kenobi showdown on Tatooine? So I'll let you guys play off of that.
Ooh,
yeah, I'm not answering that either.
I can't answer that either.
Yeah.
I mean, I can answer the first one. I can't answer the second question. First question, I don't really make it about Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon because I feel like they were two very different Jedi. Obi-Wan was this person who was always looking to the future, always trying to think of what comes next, and he kind of lost what was happening in the present, and it usually bit him in the ass. Where as Qui-Gon, that's all he was trying to think about, the here and the now. What can I do now? Which at times made him short-sighted to if it was going to turn out well. And in terms of force powers, I think they were relatively the same. I don't think either of them were like powerhouses in the force.
Great.
So I'm gonna go biblical here real quick. Obi-Wan is like Job. So he has been thrown every obstacle. He is the one that everything has been thrown at him in a negative way. Satine dying, Qui-Gon dying, the Talia dying. Like everything he has faced, he's overcome and has gone back to being a Jedi and taking it and being that defensive and being that mindful person. So there's a part of me that thinks that out of all of the Jedi that we see, that Obi-Wan is like the epitome of what a Jedi should be. And that's why I feel, and maybe because we didn't get a lot of time with Qui-Gon. I mean, I've read Master and Apprentice, but you don't get a lot of time with Qui-Gon, so I don't know. But
read the
definitely,
comics. In the comics.
So, but yeah, and I don't have any of the comic knowledge either. So, but from my perspective, I think Obi-Wan is that pure, clean Jedi, and that's where I feel like he would be the epitome of the Jedi, and that's why I think he would be better than Qui-Gon. And I just don't have all that other background on Qui-Gon.
I mean, the thing is like, I'm not really a huge fan of these kinds of questions because, like, what are we trying to ask? Are we trying to ask, who would kill who in a fight? That's not what either one of them would ever do.
Who has the better beard? They're asking who has the better beard.
Yeah, but at the same time, I mean, like, you've got Qui-Gon who's a maverick and he thinks out of the box. You've got Obi-Wan who really, like, his strength and his weakness is that he follows what's been done before, and so if something works, he's going to use it. But I mean, I guess if I had to give an answer on this, the answer is, well, who defeated Anakin Skywalker? Obi-Wan Kenobi. So if Qui-Gon Jinn is also going to be able to defeat Anakin Skywalker, maybe we have a question here, but I don't think that's the case.
You want to know a good analogy to this question? Did you guys see the episode Star Wars Visions with the young Jedi and his older master and like that old raisin looking Sith?
Yeah. Oh yeah,
the Elder. That's the episode's name. The Elder. That's kind of how I view Obi-Wan's relationship with Qui-Gon. That Qui-Gon is older now, and his thought process isn't really about physical prowess. And even if we haven't gotten a lot of him in like the movies and the books, his whole thing was, I am just becoming more with the Force. I'm getting older, and that's going to happen to you. And I think Qui-Gon's journey throughout all the suffering he's gone through, because Qui-Gon's gone through some suffering, but that's like Eve material. But just from the films, Obi-Wan's journey is becoming more like Qui-Gon. And I think that's the relationship between master and apprentice, that every Padawan we have is supposed to be the better version of who we are. So Obi-Wan is the evolution of Qui-Gon. Then you have Luke, who eventually becomes the evolution of Obi-Wan. And they each represent where the Jedi are supposed to evolve. Just disregarding certain things Luke did in that one little flashback. But Luke is supposed to be like the better version of Obi-Wan, just like Obi-Wan's supposed to be the better version of Qui-Gon. Like, he managed to save Anakin. That's something Obi-Wan could never do. He was so stuck in his head of, well, Yoda says this and prequel Jedi that, and that's nothing a shame. That's how he was raised, at his culture. And then you have Luke with his unorthodox beliefs, and he saves Anakin in a way Obi-Wan could and Ahsoka couldn't, because he approached things differently. And I think that's a natural evolution of the relationship between a master and apprentice. It's not about which one is better. It's about how we raise them to be better than us, because that's the end goal, to make them better than us.
I like that. But Dooku created Qui-Gon.
Well, and Qui-Gon...
And Yoda created Dooku.
Like, literally?
Right?
Like, who's the mother?
Okay. Yoda was the Yoda. Dooku was Yoda's Padawan. So Dooku was the extension of Yoda, and then Dooku took Qui-Gon as a Padawan, and so he was the extension.
I've got some Yoda discourse that we're not going to get into this episode, but I kind of blame him for a lot of different things.
Yeah, I'm not
It's
saying
just a
that.
little
That's why I didn't say that. Oh, that's why I say Obi-Wan is what I consider to be the quintessential Jedi, not necessarily Yoda.
I consider him that till Luke comes along, because Luke managed to do the one thing Obi-Wan couldn't, which makes me go, okay,
Which
well,
I
you
agree
beat him in that regard.
Because like when Luke comes out of Yoda's hut and says, "I can't kill my father," then Obi-Wan doesn't see any other, solution to the problem other than, well, the Emperor's already won then.
I kind of laugh. I do kind of laugh at, like, it's contextually it's a serious moment, but memes have ruined it where I'm just like, well, I picked the wrong twin. I should have taken Leia.
Right.
I mean, honestly, now
Leia
that we know what their connection is like,
I just think Obi-Wan is saying they're like, no balls. What? No balls. Your sister would have done this. It would have been one conversation. Hey, you need to kill him. Okay, Ben, I'm gonna go beat the hell out of him. Thank you, Ben. I am dead, Luke. We are at the 11th hour now. He is 6'8" in a walking refrigerator. I tried this. He killed me.
Love it.
That's great.
I love
what
that.
what was that third question that we've got here?
Is there
Will
another
we
one?
see another?
That's
Dark?
The spoiler one.
Yeah.
Well,
You
that
guys
was, I mean,
theorized
from somebody who hasn't looked at the leaks and the spoilers, it is really interesting from my point of view, because I didn't know that the flashback was originally supposed to be in the next episode, but all I'm thinking is, well, Kathleen Kennedy promised us the showdown, or the rematch of the century.
Century.
And I'm just kind of like, okay, well, there was a lot of talk about, like, people being like, well, I don't want them to fight again. It ruins everything. And personally, I don't care. Like I said, I mean, I've always existed under the idea that, like, Vader's line about being the learner doesn't even refer to Revenge of the Sith necessarily, because he wasn't a Padawan there either, if you're going to take it, in its most literal sense. So I've never really cared about that. But when I saw just how prevalent that flashback scene was, I was kind of like, well, is this what she's talking about? So I'm honestly not really sure, especially now that I know that this fight was supposed to be in the last episode. I'm like, wow, that's if that was going to be in the last episode and then add another fight on top of it, whether between Reva and Obi-Wan, or Obi-Wan and Vader, or Vader and Reva again, like, that's a lot. And I do expect this to be a longer episode, but I am just really not sure what's coming.
Yeah, and I mean, I'd like to hear Brent's opinion on this as well. I haven't read any of the spoilers, but like, where are we leading to? Is Reva going to try to get to Luke now, and is she falling deeper into the dark side, kind of, because of her anger, or like, is Vader going to go to Tatooine to go after whatever Kenobi is protecting there or something? Because, like, that's why I don't know. That's where I'll say, like, after this episode, I was just like, where the hell is this going to go for the finale? I mean, they went to that, back to the PTSD. I mean, they went back to that look in Kenobi's face where he knows something bad's about to happen. They show little Luke tucked in, sleeping very comfortably in his bed at the Owen farmstead.
Love that kid.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just sat there just like, where the hell is this going to go? The end of this story is going to come next Wednesday, and I really can't picture it. And I know Alfie and Okiro, I guess, do know where it's going to go. But
even non-spoiler wise, the series told you. She picked Owen out of the crowd and said, "You know something about a Jedi."
Yeah.
She's
going back because she knows Owen, and she's gonna be. She's more firmly believing than ever that, like, Owen has a secret related to the Jedi.
Coming for the cave.
Well,
she's like, I know Tito has something.
Bale told her on the communication. He said the children, the boy, they need to be protected. I'll head there. He's saying that to Kenobi. It's not.
But she didn't hear the whole message.
She did hear
No.
the boy part. The boy part.
She did hear
about
boy,
clearly.
and I think she did hear Lars or
Oh.
Tatooine.
It is-
Tatooine,
she-
He
Owen,
said if
boy.
he finds out about the children.
Where we sit is that Reva knows that there's a connection between Bail and Obi-Wan. That was the whole point of taking Leia. Reva does not know that Leia Organa is Anakin Skywalker's daughter. I see a lot of people say that that's not the case. She knows that there's a connection between Obi-Wan and Bail, and she knows that Anakin Skywalker is Vader, who was Obi-Wan's apprentice. But she does not know the final part of that triangle, that Leia is Anakin's daughter. She also doesn't know that Luke is a Jedi.
Well, I don't think she knows that Anakin had kids at all yet.
I think she does now, just from that communication.
I mean, she might think that he's harboring a boy, but I don't think, there's a boy. Maybe Vader.
She doesn't.
had
But she
sex
doesn't.
10 years ago.
But she does not know that Luke is a Jedi. We got the comment from her in the first episode, like, do you have Jedi on your farm? But the thing is that like Owen denies it, and there's
telling the
nothing
truth,
that
though.
really says she knows that Luke is force sensitive. She will still be going there because now she knows that there's a connection between Obi-Wan, Bail, and Owen, the
And if
guy
you
that she
get-
picked out in the crowd, and
if you
she
get
knows
Obi-Wan
that
there, you
Owen
get
has a
Vader
family.
there.
So you go after Owen because there's a connection between Owen and Obi-Wan, she will get Obi-Wan by going after Owen and Luke. But
Go ahead.
I know I was gonna say, without diving into spoilers, because there are some things the spoilers didn't cover, and I got some friends who have told me some stuff back and forth that things have been changing, but without even going into that, I don't think, even if there is or isn't a fight between Vader and Obi-Wan, I don't think we should be looking at that as the emotional resolution of the series, just because we know I made a whole Twitter thread about this, but we know factually, just because of the OT, there is no resolution between Obi-Wan and Vader in this series. Maybe we'll have Obi-Wan, we'll see him come to the conclusion that he's more machine than man now. But so maybe that, but we can't get that in the OT too. The emotional resolution right now is going to be between Reva and Obi-Wan, because that's where it has been since episode 1. We started with Reva, then we went to Obi-Wan. And those have been the two people kind of carrying the series. The Vader and Hayden stuff, like, don't get me wrong, I've loved seeing Hayden. The Vader stuff, I'm just gonna be honest, has kind of felt like it was just added on there because, you know, fans really love when they see Vader, they go crazy. Fallen Order, Rogue One, Rebels. But it's the Hayden stuff that's been the real emotional center, and how Hayden Anakin relates to Reva and Obi-Wan. Reva, it's like people calling me Okiro and Akira. I'm just mixing up her name at this point. That's been the emotional part of the story. It's been Anakin, Reva, and Obi-Wan, not Vader. The Vader stuff is kind of just there for, you know, the spectacle, give the fans a kind of a balance of the emotional part, and the have your lizard brain stuff. And that's why I feel Vader lies. No matter what happens with him and Obi-Wan, it's everything involving Obi-Wan and Reva that will be how this series ends.
yeah, Reva has to come to her character's conclusion, and I'm not sure how that's gonna end up. You know,
I'm not sure either. Spoilers don't touch
really?
it, so I don't know.
Okay.
Spoilers do not go into that.
I mean, it is really interesting because up until this finale, you know, she's still set on revenge, and it's really interesting to wonder, like, is she going to be able to be redeemed? Does she have to die at the end? I'm not really sure, but there will be a conclusion to that part of the story. Then there's going to be the emotional center of Obi-Wan and Leia, because we've just been with that for a long time. And then, you know, there'll probably be something with Obi-Wan and Luke. But you're right that, like, there can't be any kind of big emotional catharsis between Obi-Wan and Vader, other than, like you said, maybe Obi-Wan coming to the idea that, like, Anakin's gone, because they can't. And I'm a little bit worried that fans might react to that negatively.
They are. I don't mean to. I'm just gonna be very honest. They kind of. No offense, Kathy's just doing her job as a president. She's just saying what people tell her to do. But when it comes to the Kenobi series, I think they're gonna react negatively to feeling like, oh, we wanted more Vader versus Obi-Wan, when that was never really the main focus of the story. And I think people, especially with the reaction to the Hayden flashback, if you just took Vader out of it and just had Hayden for flashbacks, hallucinations, and memories, I don't think anyone would have minded. They would have lived without Vader. And I think putting him in the story is going to create the most negative reception next week. Because I've been seeing the fan theories. Everyone's like, Vader's planning this. Vader's going to do this. He's going to pull this MacGuffin thing from this obscure thing outside of his cockpit. And I'm going to be like, you guys are going to be disappointed.
Vader is a plot device. Vader is a plot device in this story.
He's a prop.
He's a prop. He doesn't have to go through any kind of character arc because he can't. The only thing that he can go to is it's the one line that, you know, he was the learner and now he's not. That is the one thing that this show can address. And I think they kind of already have.
Agreed.
I wish people would just lower their expectations.
Yeah, I also wish they just didn't put Vader in the story beyond like one little oh shit appearance. Have Hayden in there all you want, but Vader, wish they kept him out.
Me too.
So you said that there's different types of fans. I'm a fan that just wants to be entertained. I don't get into the story arcs. I don't get into the breakdown of emotional resolutions. So I was listening to that and I was interested in that, but that's not what I care about. I just want to be entertained. And so when you say
we call you the
happen,
vibing people. You guys vibe. Yeah, you're like,
I just want to be entertained.
Good vibes in it.
Yep, 100%. Like I'll talk about the lore afterwards, but I just want to be entertained. And at this point, I'm entertained. And as long as I'm entertained and it keeps going, the one thing that I will say, and I agree with Alfie, I want people to die and I want new characters. But like, if you die, die. If you die, die.
I'm going to put on a shirt. If you die, you die, Brent.
I mean, just seriously, it gets old. And I feel like to me, I feel like that I will call that lazy writing. I feel like it's just lazy. Like it's easier to bring them back.
Who are you talking about when you say that?
The Inquisitor, Darth Maul.
Okay, Darth Maul was George Lucas.
Reva.
Dave Filoni didn't want that.
I don't care. Like, no, I understand. I'm talking about, again, I don't get into who or what or details. I just want them to die. If you killed them off, you killed them off. They're dead, and let's move forward.
I will agree with that point. Just with Darth Maul, one, I have a solution. I love you, Mr. Krabs, but you do have a prolific career other places. Just say, okay, Darth Maul has a brother, like he does, and you know you took my brother, I'm gonna take stuff from you, and like that's the original relationship that grows through the Clone Wars. So you know when you're watching Solo or whatever, and someone says, "Yeah, you know that's crazy. Darth Maul was in there." Excuse what the fuck did you just say? Oh yeah, he lived. When I watched all 9 movies. Oh, the Clone Wars. What the fuck is the Clone Wars?
Right.
Yeah. I would say you're better off just
fan. It's not gonna. It's blows their mind.
Instead of just bringing back a dead character who was, I think we can all admit. I love you, George. I do love you. Maul was dead. Obi-Wan rearranged his guts, not in the nasty way you people listening. He cut him in half. He died. I'm like, you know, you did have a brother right there. You could have just utilized. Savage kind of just fades into the background once Maul comes back. He's just kind of like the henchman who stands there, then dies by Mr. Sidious. So in that regard, I'm like, well, you could have just built him up to be this big character because you did that with Ahsoka. Ahsoka's entire character is, I'm an original character, and I grew from the nobody everyone hated in 2008 to I'm getting my own show in 2023. So you could have done the same with Savage instead of just dragging Maul back. I like what they did with Maul, but you could have done the same thing with Savage, and you still have the personal beef. You killed my brother.
I mean, I don't disagree. I think that Maul set a dangerous precedent, but at the same time, I just kind of look at it like, well, the Inquisitor, he's got the line in Rebels that says some things are worse than death. So I always looked at it like it makes sense that he's had a brush with death because he's already alluded to it.
I don't really understand that line though, because unless the next episode we see Vader like saying, "Well, Grand Inquisitor, time for you to be tortured a little bit for failing me in the beginning," because now I just interpret that line as some things are worse than death. You can have a mega mind head.
Good call on that.
Yes.
I actually do like Joey Friend. He's actually a cool guy. He was in one of my favorite shows, Homeland. Homeland is The Boys.
Yeah, Is it Rupert Friend or
Rupert Foe? Sorry, Rupert Foe. He's not Friend. He's Foe. Rupert Foe.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Wait, there's a Rupert Friend and a Rupert Foe?
I don't know. I'm confusing.
No, he's
William
he's
Dafoe, William the Friend. I'm confusing my memes now with people. I've
Right.
lost my mind.
I'll say one thing when it comes to deaths. I always like create this multiverse of Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter and Game of Thrones and Star Wars all mixed into one. And I just remember when Game of Thrones was going on, and I'm sorry if you haven't seen Game of Thrones at this point, but when Jon Snow was brought back to life, once you have a character killed and then brought back to life, the fans are questioning whether anybody is actually dead the rest of the show. So like anytime anybody dies, you're just like, well, can the Red Woman come in and revive them? Like, maybe they're not actually dead. Like it does definitely confuse you. I mean, another prime example, Palpatine came back in the sequel trilogy. You thought he
There's
was
another
dead,
one. There's another
like,
one.
Which
yeah.
one? Boba Fett?
Well, if you can survive a lightsaber to the chest, why do the stormtroopers die getting hit with rock arrows?
Because plot armor.
Yeah.
Because the Ewoks
But you can only
after
use
they
plot
knock them
armor
out.
so many times, and
It wrapped
is-
around their neck
per character.
Listen, I hear.
okay.
I agree. I agree. Some characters do need. I do agree. Plot armor. I do agree. Some characters need to die. I think we need a level. I do think that some characters will always have plot armor, but to go forward now after this, death should stay final, because when we remember Padme, when we remember Obi-Wan himself, which George Lucas did create Force Ghosts, I was like, fuck, I want to use Alec Guinness for 3 movies. I just killed them all. Shit. But for other characters who aren't gifted with the blue boys, when we cry over Padme, Satine, I am very sad I'm using all women as examples right now. Qui-Gon,
Tala.
Obi-Wan. God
Tala's-
damn it.
Tala's
Why
not
she
coming
died
back.
from a laser shot? The robot fell on top of her. Maybe she survived.
That's true. She
No,
could've taken-
I
took
mean,
the blasts, but
I
I,
mean,
think
yeah,
she
but-
held. She was holding the
She
detonator.
had the
though.
thermal. She's gonna come out looking
mean,
like
she's
Darth
God.
Maul if she lived.
No one's
Tis
ever
but a
really
sh-
gone.
I hate you. I hate that line so much. That was actually
Somehow Talia returned.
little production info that that's gonna bother me if I don't say it. The reason that line was put in there was because they actually had the plot of him, all that stuff, but they needed to get the film shorter, so like make it work. And JJ's like, fuck it. Oscar, get your ass over here. No, but seriously, I do think that if deaths are final, they do make us fear for the safety of characters more.
Yep.
If we know that a character can just come back because they have a second stomach that we've never heard about, or they just have Vader has the worst aim with, I don't want to say the word, but it's the word I can think about, penetrating people with his lightsaber. It's
Well done. Well done.
That was not intentional. I just stabbing. That's it. Stabbing. I forgot the word. It's gonna we feel less worried about a character if we know, well, they could survive this way. Talia survived this. Maul could survive this. Even I do it sometimes. I'm like, bring back Mace Windu, but it was just a hand. Come on. But okay. But outside of me, it is better if death is final. So when we see characters in danger, we're afraid for them because they can die. They can actually die, and there's no coming back. If we know that they
it's the story. I mean, it's the storytelling strength and weakness of sci-fi. It's one of those things where it's like sometimes it can be used for, really good storytelling purposes where you can fake deaths and you can keep your characters around and it can be used effectively. But you're absolutely right that as soon as you do use it, it opens up a different place in the world. It's if every different franchise has a sandbox, and for some that sandbox is really defined and there's a world that you create within that sandbox, and for some there's it's just like a big old dune of sand that just goes everywhere. I look at things like Doctor Who, which is just so out there. There's just not really a parameter, and I don't typically like those kinds of stories quite as much. I like defined stories, but then Star Wars is pretty defined. But you're absolutely right that as soon as you introduce this idea that someone can come back, and to be honest, it really was Darth Maul that really affected this change. It changes the entire psyche of the entire fandom, even when we know characters actually die. I mean, I don't think that people would still be on about whether or not Ben Solo is coming back from the sequels quite to the level that they are, except that there's already been a precedent.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, not even just fans. I think writers have been using that as a crutch now, a little too much. No, not too much. They have, and not even just writers, like studios, because we do know these stories are not made in isolation. You need to clear checks and balances of this producer, that producer, that producer, and ho, kids, gotta go to Mickey Mouse too. So like he's the big one. You also have to clear it by. So I'm just like, because they know now of like, oh, we brought this character back, we can bring this character back. I think now, even if they do fake out deaths, they'll be more elaborate with like they'll leave clues. You'll have a little more setup. My biggest complaint is not the Inquisitor is alive. I know he's alive. He's in Rebels. I've seen Rebels. I like Rebels. He just kind of walks in there like, hello, third sister. I have returned. I don't know where I have two stomachs. That's why I am dummy thick now, and I'm going to get really skinny in Rebels. You screwed up my stomach now, so I can't be dummy thick. That's why you didn't hear the claps of my buttocks as I walked in the room. Wait, hold on. Second question that's just been bothering me. Where are the other Inquisitors during all this? Like I've had this theory that they're actually in a relationship. So when we just don't see them on screen, they're just going on a little date. And that's just been my theory, because like they're always together, but never in any episodes these days.
I don't like that theory, not when they're calling each other brother and sister.
Brother, sister,
Game of Thrones again.
Sweet
There we go.
Home Alderaan. Listen, I have this remix song called Sweet Home Alderaan, and that's what I think is happening right now. They are on a date somewhere in Naboo saying, sister, it is great to get away from the troubles of Reva and Vader.
All right.
They're dating.
So we've gone on for quite a while, and so my last parting shot. So I'll start with the summations. I just want to be entertained. I've been entertained with the series as we've gone through. I have loved the Leia character. She has been a pleasant surprise, both the actress, the writing, the characterization, and what they've done with that character. I think it's on point for who Leia would be at a 10-year-old. So I just want to be entertained, and please entertain me with this last episode.
I'll follow off on that and say that I also am one of those fans that really, my primary desire is just to be entertained and to see more of the big picture story arcs of Star Wars. Like, I want to see the themes. I want to see Obi-Wan find the light. That's what I want to see. So whatever happens in this last episode, little Leia is going to help him turn the light back on, and he's going to be able to feel the Force and know that for the last 10 years on Tatooine, that he's got purpose. And so I'm excited for the last episode. I don't really think that there's any way to screw that up, because we know that that's where we know that his end point is what he tells Maul in Twin Sons, which is, look what I've risen above. That's where he's going. So I'm excited.
I'm an opinionated asshole who have many, many complaints with the series, but I've been enjoying the emotional arc of Obi-Wan Kenobi. So for me, the good outweighs the cons, no matter what complaints I have. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much the same. I'm enjoying the show. It's easy and kind of fun to nitpick stuff because you can laugh about it. I'm not keyboard warrior typing on Twitter, oh my God, this is horrible, I can't believe they're doing this. I'm enjoying the show. I mean, I had a tear episode 4, and I wasn't on Twitter all day that day. And then after we filmed our podcast, I went on Twitter and I saw people saying episode 4 is the worst episode of this series. And I'm just like, whoa, I actually like semi cried a little bit and had to gather myself before the podcast, because I have a daughter, and little Leia, and her relationship with Kenobi has really grown on me. So to me, the show is doing its job. Is there stuff we can nitpick? Of course. I'm enjoying the show though. It's fun to nitpick. I'm also enjoying the show. So it doesn't have to be I'm either this way or that way. You can have fun, dissecting it, but I'm enjoying it, and I'm excited to see how they're going to finish it. I think they're going to knock it out of the park. for the finale, but I don't know. We'll see. Brent always tells us to keep our expectations down, so I'll just
Keep 'em
enjoy.
high.
Fun fact: my niece is named Baby Leia.
Oh, cute.
Born in 2019, Carrie Fisher's birthday.
Oh wow.
Wow.
That's why we
That's
named her
amazing.
Leia. She is very opinionated, likes to yell no and smack people in the face. That's not a joke. That's what she likes to do.
That's her.
She is Leia. God, she's characterized well too.
So cute.
Alfie, what's your parting shot?
Yeah, I've really enjoyed this series, and any nitpicks and criticisms I have come out of the love of Star Wars, nothing toxic. And we keep talking about this emotions in the show. I'm sorry I didn't get to send sooner, but one thing that I really got me emotional watching this episode was after years and years of the plot of the Clone Wars always being Anakin coming to save the day to get Obi-Wan out of a jam. Here you had Obi-Wan trapped. It's still Anakin, but he's not coming to save him this time. That kind of got me a little bit. And I really am excited for the finale and to see how this all wraps up.
I think that sounds great. Yeah, we'll certainly have lots to discuss going forward. So to our listeners, thank you so much for hanging in for probably a longer episode than usual, but lots of storytelling stuff to dig into. And we had a great crew here tonight. So thank you, gentlemen. To our listeners, if you're interested in connecting with us, you can find us at Rule the Galaxy on Twitter. Where else? We got Rule the Galaxy podcast on TikTok. Are there any other places that people can find?
Rule the Galaxy SW@gmail.com if you want to send us a note.
Perfect. Yes, please. We welcome all your interactions.
And if you want to get a shirt or t-shirt or sweatshirt and get your merch, there's an Etsy store. So go on Etsy, all caps, Rule the Galaxy, all caps, all together. Pop up, and there's about 6 to 10 items there. You can get the merch from the Rule the Galaxy podcast.
Perfect. But we appreciate your support so much. So be well. We will be back with another episode next week, and may the Force be with you.
I think she's
All
frozen
right.
again. Oh, she's back. Nope, she's gone again.
Yeah. So I think she's frozen.
I think it's still recording. Yes.
It's still recording in case I haven't heard the lady say.
Yep.
She has not said recording has stopped. So we'll just
Correct.
tell Joe to go to this last
It's playing Han
last
Solo.
1 minute.
If you look at it, there's going to be a break. He's like Joey, because I think Joey does it, but Joe might be doing it now.
Joe's doing it now. He's putting the music in. He's doing
What?
it. Yeah, he was taught how to do it, and he's doing it.
Look at him go.
All right. I hope that she unfreezes here in a second, because this is a really long.
I know.
This is a really long one.
That's a long one.
I wasn't on with you before. It was nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, man.
So it says
left.
Okiro is the host now.
What happened? I
So
am the
you're gonna
captain
have
now.
to somehow stop the recording. I don't know how you do that.
I think it's on.
Hey, Star Wars fans and Rule the Galaxy fans. As you can see, we ran into a little technical glitch there at the end of this podcast. So as I'm editing, as I'm putting this together, I just wanted to finish up. Thank you to Jessica, the Duchess. Thank you to the first Okiro. Thanks to Brent, Alfie, DDoc, everybody else who's involved with the show. So wanted to throw that out there. Finish this strong here. As always, you can follow us at Rule the Galaxy SW on Twitter and Instagram. You can follow us at just Rule the Galaxy on Facebook and YouTube, and Rule the Galaxy, the Rule the Galaxy podcast on TikTok. And again, if you want to buy some very cool gear with our Rule the Galaxy logo on it, you can go to Etsy.com, type in Rule the Galaxy, all caps, all one word, no spaces, and you can buy our gear there. So thanks again to all the hosts and the co-hosts for tonight's show. Sorry I couldn't be there, but I wanted to make sure we finish this up strong. and didn't have us just going off into oblivion there with the end of the episode. Until next week, we'll see you then, and may the force be with you.